Hello friends, so today I'm here to do my February wrap up. I am a little bit sad to see February end because I wrote it down. I read 13 books this month and that's a very good reading month for me. So I'm going to start with the ebooks that I read and then continue on to the physical books. The first ebook that I read is The Consequence of Falling by Clara Contreras. This was a contemporary-a-thon pick for a non-traditional format book. It was described as an enemies to lovers office romance, and I wouldn't say it was enemies to lovers. This was about a girl who has decided that it's time for her to start working for her father's company, and when she gets there, she finds out that her father is now partners with a guy who she didn't like when she was in high school because she felt like all of her father's attention was put on him, training him for the business and not training her for the business. I wouldn't really say it was an enemies to lovers. I did give it a 4 stars. I really enjoyed the romance of it once she got over it, really. He didn't have anything to get over. She had to get over it. But I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. The next ebook I read was Huge Deal by Lauren Lane, the third book in the 21 Wall Street series. I was so excited to finally get to this book because I read the other two last year, I think, because they're on Kindle Unlimited. I read the first two sometime last year. And I was waiting for this one because this one is about the third Wall Street broker and the assistant that the three guys share. It's like she's in charge of all of their schedules and everything. Really excited to get to this one, but I was very worried because I thought that it was going to just kind of be like, oh, these two people have had feelings for each other. They finally realized it. They're together now. But it wasn't. It actually had like a good conflict part of the story. It was really good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The third and final ebook I read was The Risk by Elle Kennedy. Elle Kennedy is an auto-buy author for me. I've loved everything that she's written. I loved everything that she's written so far. I have more of her books coming up in this wrap-up. The Risk was about the coach's daughter at Briar and a Harvard player who is their rival. And it was so good. I loved it. It had good plot. It had good sexy times. It had a good resolution. I believed the resolution, which is an issue in some of the new adult romances that I read. But I loved it. Loved it. It wasn't the first 5-star of the month, but it was definitely probably the highest 5-star of the month. So those were the ebooks that I read, and now on to the physical books. The first of which being Be the Girl by K.A. Tucker, which I had some issues with. I ended up giving this one a 3.5 stars. It was good, and then the plot twist happened, and I started kind of understanding stuff after the plot twist, and it kind of went downhill for me after that. This is about a girl who, her and her mother have relocated to, I don't even remember what province they would move to. They live in Canada. They've moved into the same house as the mom's uncle. The main girl meets the family next door. They have I think she was autistic daughter? Yes, they have an autistic daughter. And she kind of befriends her. I didn't really feel like it was a friendship. She was kind of just like, about her. But then she meets the older brother, and all of a sudden she's all about the hanging out with the family and spending time with the autistic sister. I can't say much about this without spoiling what happened. I probably should have seen the plot twist coming, but I didn't. And I felt like after that, she didn't really have to make up for anything. She just said, I'm sorry, and people were like, oh, whatever, forgiven. But I didn't think it should have been that easy. I think she should have, in this scenario, I think that forgiveness needed to be earned, and she didn't really earn it. Maybe because it's so short. How many pages was this? It was 330 pages. I don't know. It felt rushed at the end to me. I don't feel like she earned her forgiveness. Had it been a little bit more expanded, it probably would have been a higher rating for me, but as it was, this was a 3.5 stars. I do love K.A. Tucker. I will continue to read her books, just this one didn't quite hit it for me. The next book that I read was Hotter Than Ever by Elle Kennedy. Again, Elle Kennedy, auto by author for me. I've had this book since Book Bonanza last July, and I read the first ones, the first 4, and then I didn't read the last 2. I didn't ever pick them up for some reason. Okay, so this is military romance. This whole series is military romance, and this is about Claire, Dylan, and Aiden. This is a polyamorous relationship. Dylan and Aiden kind of have a thing, but they don't know why just the two of them is not enough for each other. And then Dylan's brother leaves his fiancée at the altar, and Dylan, being the good guy he is, whisks her away back to San Diego where he lives with Aiden, and they develop into a polyamorous relationship. The first Elle Kennedy book that was a polyamorous relationship that I read was Ruled from the Outlaw series, and I thought it was just polyamorous relationships that I didn't like, but I liked it in this one. I felt like this one, even though it's way shorter, it was much more developed. I don't know how to describe it. Like, these are, like, whoa different in size, but I felt like the relationship was more developed, more believable in Hotter Than Ever than it was in Ruled. My only issue with these Elle Kennedy books is that they are short, and I wish they were longer. This one I ended up giving 3 stars. Now that I'm, like, thinking about it, though, I'd probably give it, like, a 3.5. I think it would be higher than a 3. Yeah. The next book starts the Contemporary-a-thon wrap-up. I finished the Out of Uniform series with As Hot as It Gets by Elle Kennedy. This one was a 4-star read for me. It was probably, I think I said it in my Contemporary-a-thon reading vlog, this was probably my favorite as far as the story goes of the Out of Uniform series. They are smutty books. I don't think I mentioned that on the other one. This one, I loved. Like, he didn't know her at the beginning. Some of the other ones, they kind of, like, knew of the girl, or at least had, like, met her once or twice before. These two did not know each other. This was Texas and Jackson, Texas. And, Mia. She is raising her younger brother because their mother has run off, and he is one of the Navy SEALs who, I think, he met her. Their meeting was so cute. He met her because she is a gardener, and she had buried her phone, and she was trying to find it to dig it up. He ends up hiring her as, like, a wedding present for one of the other couples. He convinces her to go out on dates. I can't say much else without spoiling it, but it was very good. Highly recommend if you're into Elle Kennedy books. The Out of Uniform series was so good. I'm a little bit sad that I finally finished it and there are no more. Sticking on the military romance theme, I read Come Back to Me by Mila Gray. This one was very emotional. I ended up giving it 5 stars. The first chapter of this book is a girl coming down the stairs at her parents' house and seeing her boyfriend's father at the door. He's the military chaplain in their area, and she doesn't know if who he's coming to tell has been killed in action is her brother or her boyfriend. And then you flash back to, I think it was the year before? I don't remember how many months before it was, but it was like the summer before the last time they were on deployment, when she and the boyfriend, who had been friends with the brother for forever, finally got together, and you see them, like, work through all their stuff and finally get together, and then he's deployed again. And then it goes back to real time, and you find out which one was killed in action. I did predict who it was going to be. It's kind of easy to predict who it's going to be. which probably should have knocked my rating down a little bit. But I think the way that it was handled after you find out who it is that's been killed in action, I felt like that, like, blew me through the roof. I was so impressed with how well the writing was done, how well the story was done. It was believable. There was a grief process, and it was so good. Highly, highly recommend. The next book that I read is Chain Reaction, book 3 in the Perfect Chemistry series by Simone Elkelis. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I loved this series. I read the other 2 last year or the year before, I don't remember which, and I didn't realize that there was a 3rd book, which I should have because there was a 3rd brother. But this is Luis, the youngest Fuentes brother, and what was her name? Nikki. They meet when, I think they were they meet when I think they were 15 or 16, when the Fuentes family moves back to Illinois from Colorado, where they lived in the 2nd book, for the wedding of the couple from the 1st book, the oldest brother. They kind of have a flirtation, but she's dealing with an ex-boyfriend who reminds her too much of Luis, or who Luis reminds her of. And then they go their separate ways. Luis goes back to Colorado, and then 2 years later, the family moves back to Illinois for good. They meet up again. They kind of start to have a relationship, or a friendship, I guess, would have been the first step. But they both have feelings for each other. And then Luis finds out some information, and he doesn't have to join the gang that his brother was in the first one, but he kind of does. I don't feel like he had to, but he did, so he felt like he had to. This was so good. I love this series. It's a very, like, easy YA series to read, but it's got substance to it. The next book I read is Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. This is about a girl named Lena who goes to Italy after her mother passes away because she's told that she needs to meet the man that is her father, who she has never met before. Her grandmother sends her over for the summer with the possibility of staying longer. And when she gets to Italy, she is given a journal that her mother had sent when she first got sick to a woman who is the friend of the dad, and she slowly starts reading through the journal, and she meets one of the neighbors who she has a crush on, who takes her, like, out with his friends and out to all these places where the mom went in the journal. Kind of starts to discover what happened to her mom and why she's never met her father, and just learning more about her mom that she didn't really know. And this was so good. It was a little bit emotional. I thought it was going to be more emotional than it actually was. But it did have some parts where I was kind of just like, crying a little bit. But this was really good. The next book is the last book that I read for Contemporary-a-thon. And that is Daughter of Deep Silence by Carrie Ryan. I ended up giving this one a 3 stars. I picked this one up because I think it was when it first came out a couple of years ago. I saw a lot of people saying that it sounded like Revenge, the TV show, which I loved when it was on. This is about a girl whose family was murdered on a cruise ship. Fun, because I like cruising. I'm really glad I didn't take this on vacation. Anyway, her family was murdered on a cruise ship. Her and her friend escape on a lifeboat. And then, before they can be rescued, her friend dies on the lifeboat. She ends up being rescued by the friend's father, who owned, I think it was a fishing boat? He owned some type of boat, and that's him and his crew is who ended up finding her. The friend's father convinces her to assume the friend's identity so that she doesn't have to go into, like, the foster system or anything. She ends up taking up the friend's father on his offer to become the friend. She goes overseas to school and assumes the friend's identity, learns everything about her, learns every, like, quirk and everything, and then She comes home one summer, I think it was even to the Hamptons, like in Revenge. I don't know if it actually said that or not, but it was something like the Hamptons, where it was like a beach town for the wealthy. Anyway, she comes home to this beach town, but she ends up like connecting back with the boy that she knew on the cruise ship, whose father had something to do with the cruise ship being attacked. It was good. It was just not quite there for me. I feel like I enjoyed the story more as a TV show than I did as a book. Again, it wasn't the exact same story. There were differences, but it was very reminiscent of that, and I just preferred the other version. So 3 stars. A book I never thought that I would like as much as I did. Lord of the Fading Lands by C.L. Wilson. This was, back at Book Bonanza, recommended by Cora Carmack as her favorite romance series. And since she is one of my favorite authors, I thought I should read that. And then I just never got around to it. And then Romanceopoly announced the first mystery challenge was Fated Mates. And this was one of Under the Covers book recommendations for it. And I was like, I might as well just order it, read it, I'll see what I think. I'm continuing on with this series. It was very, very good. I ended up giving it a 4 stars because I don't quite care about some of the other plot lines that were, well, not plot lines, some of the other points of view that I was getting in this book, I didn't really care about. This is the first book in the Terran Soul series. The Terran Soul is a faking, and he, was it like 1,000 years ago? Yes, 1,000 years before this story takes place, his mate was killed in battle, and he scorched the world. Because he's like a fire-breathing cat thing. I still haven't worked out exactly what that is. It's like a dragon, but also like a big panther flying through I don't know. Haven't fully worked that out yet in my head, how that works. He's been kind of in hiding, like he hasn't come out from the Fading Lands in that 1,000 years. He feels a connection that draws him to the city where he meets Elizetta? I'm going to call her Ellie because I don't know how to pronounce her name. He meets her and he feels pulled to her, and she's betrothed to this awful guy. Anyway, she's betrothed. He ends up going to the king and queen and having them break her betrothal because she is his, I don't know what they called it. I don't know how to pronounce any of the words in this book. Anyway, she's like his fated mate, which is where the Romanceopoly challenge thing comes in. But the story was really good. Just some of the points of view I didn't care about, and I will be continuing on with the series. There's 5 books. I think I'm going to try to read one a month. It was good. 4 stars. Next, I went back to the Mila Gray books and read Stay With Me by Mila Gray, which I think I enjoyed even more than Come Back to Me. This one is about Dee Dee, who is the friend of the girl from the first book. And she is studying to be a psychologist. I don't know if it's a psychologist or if it's technically another term. But she goes with her father, who is a therapist, to this military rehab center. And she starts kind of volunteering and working with some of the patients. And she ends up meeting one who, he has gone blind from an explosion. And they sort of form a friendship after she gets through his anger issues. From their friendship, they can both tell that they have bigger feelings for each other. They kind of start to explore that, but she's still an intern and she doesn't want anybody to know. But all of his friends and the charge nurse that works in their hallway that his and his friends' rooms are in, they all can tell. This was very good. I did end up giving this one 5 stars too. I enjoyed this one even more than I enjoyed the first one. The last book of the month went out a little bit slumpy. I ended up giving it a 2.5 stars. And that is Ruin and Rule by Pepper Winters. I guess it's the first in the Pure Corruption MC. I have two. I don't know if that's how many there are or not. But this one is about a girl who has been kidnapped and wakes up with no memory of anything. Sees one of her kidnappers and knows that she has a connection to him, but she just does not know how. Does not know who he is or anything or any of these other guys, who they are. She ends up being a girl who like wasn't supposed to get kidnapped, or she was an extra kidnappee something. I don't know. So he ends up taking her to his house. Parts of it were boring, parts of it were good. I will continue on because I kind of want to know what happens with the ending. Anyway, if you like MC romances, you'll probably like it. It was okay. So I ended up adding 5 more stars to my Romanceopoly board. Let's see. February I did Erotic Fave, one of the bus locations, College Row, the Mystery Challenge, and Beanies. Beanies was the post a picture of your bookshelves, which I did after I had help building these bookshelves. I love them so much. Anyway, let's see. The Mystery Challenge was Fated Mates. I read Lord of the Fading Lands. College Row, I counted The Risk by L. Kennedy. The bus box was read a book where the characters go on a journey. I read Love and Gelato. For erotic faves, I counted the last 2 books in the Out of Uniform series. I think I actually counted Hotter Than Ever, technically. So that is my February wrap-up. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. I really hope that March is as good as February was. I'm like staring at the book that's on my bed, The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros, because it got here yesterday. And I'm about 40 pages in, and it already broke my heart last night. So that's fun. I'm gonna go read now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.